Hey, Marcus here, sword and finance guy. Are swords a good investment opportunity? Let's just get into it. They can be. Some can appreciate in value by 50% in just a few years. But not all swords will get you that because not all are created equal. There are essentially 4 different categories of sword, and I'm gonna tell you how worthwhile it would be to invest in each one of them. But before I do, don't base your finances off of a video on YouTube. Like, whenever you spend your money, know your stuff. Do research. Alright, the first type of sword is what's known in the industry as a sword-like object. These are your cheap fantasy designs, your wall hanger pieces, and your mall ninja tactical stuff. If it's cheap, has lots of spikes, and is made of stainless steel, with a few exceptions, it's probably a sword-like object and not a real sword. These are perfectly fine if you want a display piece, but wouldn't stand up to any real use. And more importantly, they will drop in value as soon as you walk out of the store or click the button on Amazon, unless maybe you get a good fantasy design and then that fantasy franchise gets a remake or a TV show, and then there's suddenly more demand for the exact fantasy sword that you have. But in general, they're enjoyable, but not really an investment. Next up is the lower end mass-produced swords. Generally anything in the $100 to $300 or so range falls here. These swords are made of decent steel. They're often made overseas by apprentices and then checked by somebody more skilled. If you just want a sword for the zombie apocalypse, cutting practice, or whatever, this will get you there. They don't always appreciate in value, but sometimes they can hit that 50% mark. If you just so happen to find a model that's well known as a great deal for the price, pick one or a few up, and then the company discontinues the line, you can make some money on resale by adding $20, $50, or maybe even $100 on top of what you paid if it's still in very good condition. Obviously, it's difficult to know what's a steal for the price and when things will discontinue, so this isn't really a surefire method. After this comes the mid to high-end swords. You've got your Albion, your Arms and Armor, etc., and this includes smaller smiths who make high-quality customs. Custom swords have the most room for profit here. The smith's reputation is key, as is all of their career. Since their blades aren't mass-produced, everyone will be unique. You won't be able to just go to Cult of Athena, I have an affiliate link for them in the description, and pick up another of the same. This means that you can essentially set your price. Now, will people be willing to pay that price? If that smith goes on to win Forged in Fire or stops producing for whatever reason, then people might be willing to pay a bit more for them. As for mass-produced high-end swords like Albion, they're relatively similar to the low-end swords, at least in appreciation value here. They're much better quality. Some might go up in value for the same reasons, and some just might fall to the wayside. I guess I just covered 2 categories there. But lastly is the antiques. Probably the most profitable, yet also least profitable. People like old things. People like things tied to different eras of history. There will always be a market for antiques, and antiques only get older and rarer as people forget about their great-grandfather's saber in the attic, or just keep it hanging above the fireplace. Things come off the market. Some sources say that antique blades can appreciate in value by 20% each year. I don't really believe that in general, although I guess some can. However, many can appreciate significantly over the course of a decade or 2. However, there are 2 significant things to consider with antiques. First off, they're essentially used goods, meaning that it's not going to drop in value just because you bought it, like a lot of new things do. And honestly, used in great condition isn't the worst way to go with any of these, as long as there's no secret damage that they're not telling you. But the second big thing to consider with antiques is some people do this sort of thing as their job. People in the market likely know a lot more than you do, so be wary with this. In conclusion, I'm not going to say if swords are a good investment or not, You kind of have to decide this for yourself. However, if you do decide to jump in, I'd highly recommend that you actually appreciate swords, just in case what you get doesn't actually appreciate.